What's your name?
Johnny Wright,
What's your age?
74,
When's your birthday?
January the 15th,
And what year?
1942.
Okay. What's some of the places you've lived in?
Pikeville, Kentucky till I was 19 years old. And then I went to Chicago, Illinois, and lived in Harvey, Illinois for 5 years, in Calumet City, Illinois. Uh, I went to Chicago for work. In 1961, there was very little work here in the coal mines. So there was like thousands of people left here at that time to go north for jobs. So I was in Chicago for 5 years, and at that time I left and went to Fort Wayne, Indiana, and got a job with GE, and I worked for them for 10 years. And after that, Bethlehem Steel, the mining had picked up, and I got a job with Bethlehem Steel and moved back in, I think it was 73. So I worked with Bethlehem till they went out of business, and I retired at that time.
So what made you move to Chicago?
For work, there wasn't any work in in the 60s. And like I said, there was thousands of people left here for work at that time. There was plenty of jobs in the car manufacturing job, steel mills, or about anything you wanted to work at. And if you were from the mountains, usually had no problem getting a job because they knew they were hard workers out of Tennessee and Virginia and Kentucky at that time.
Okay. How was the transition from Kentucky to Chicago?
Well, you had to learn there was different nationalities of people. You had the Polacks, you had Germans, Cubans, and then a lot of people from the South. And a lot of the people out of the South, they sort of hung out their own places. So you just had to learn to get along. It was a different way of life. You learned to watch your back. You didn't trust people as much, and make friends with a lot of them.
Did it take you a while to get used to the ways of Chicago?
I wouldn't say you ever get used to it, but I learned to like it, and like I say, get along with those people there. It was different, but here we had one, just the nationality of people. There you had many nationalities of people, and you had to learn to get along with all of them. That's what was the hardest thing probably to do.
What was some of the crimes you witnessed while in Chicago?
Rioting, I remember was one of that, and robbery, breaking in homes there. Crime was real high at that time, and where I was used to in Kentucky, you didn't hardly had any crime. There, stealing was like cars. They steal motors out of cars, batteries, anything that they get their hands on at that time.
John F. Kennedy was killed while you were in Chicago. How did that affect the country?
At first, when John F. Kennedy was killed in Dallas, Texas, it probably took it a month for the country to settle down and get back to the normal thing. Lyndon Baines Johnson was sworn in, I think it was in Dallas, Texas, on the airplane whenever John F. Kennedy was killed.
What were some of the worries with the new president after John F. Kennedy's death?
Well, he was worried about the ones he'd appoint in his cabinet, which way he would take the country, and that's when we were into it with the Vietnam War, and a lot of people hated Johnson over that. Now Johnson did come, he did form that war on poverty, and he did come to the Fish Trap Dam over here. I'm not sure what year it was, and dedicated that dam, and we're trying to set that up so to make jobs to help the people of the mountains here.
Well, what was it like leaving your wife and your new baby at home while in Chicago?
You would worry about their safety if they was all right, because you knew it was most hillbillies that left and went north. They got into the poor sections of town, and the crime was higher there. So naturally, you'd be concerned about your wife and child.
Why did you leave Chicago after 5 years?
I'd got a job with General Electric in Fort Wayne, which was a big company, and yeah, I could better myself money wise, and I'd worked with them for 10 years.
What was the most valuable lesson you learned while being away from home?
Learned to work hard, get along with people, and number one thing we've got to learn is be a team player. You've got to learn to get along with everybody, and you've got to learn to do a good job. And I think that you will survive if you do that, or at least I did.